Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Daily AI Show Live. I'm Brian, and we've got Andy here. I think it's probably the two of us. We'll see if Karl jumps in the door. I know Beth and Jyunmi are both out today, but we're happy you guys are here. Thanks, Greg, already being in the comments, already going. He's saying poor Roomba. I imagine, Greg, that is in reference to our newsletter that went out. There was a comic about an AI-enhanced Roomba with hitting all the benchmarks. The joke was obviously about everybody's got a new benchmark, right? With
Well,
AI.
but also that Roomba is filing for bankruptcy.
Oh, no, literally. Okay, he's literally talking. So then, no, I'm totally wrong on that. Okay, we'll get to that. That's a news story then. Okay, I do want to hear about that. Okay. Well, today is December 15th, 2025. As Andy and I were just saying, Greg is like, no, I meant the bankruptcy, Brian. It just so happens I had a comic about that. I'll pretend in my mind that that's what you're talking about, Greg. Andy and I were just saying before we went live today that it is bizarre to think there's 10 days till Christmas, and then obviously quickly the new year after that. But it's worth saying on the show, and we keep repeating it, that yes, the holidays are coming up for lots of people, whatever they might celebrate in the new year, but we are keeping on with the AI. So you can expect a new live show Monday through Friday, right through the end of the year and into January and on from there. We have a nice little streak going of, I don't know how many weeks it is, but this is episode 616 today. And we have not missed a Monday through Friday yet. And we have no intention of doing that. So whether it's myself and Andy or Ann pops in the door when she can, Jyunmi and the rest of the crew, you can expect to have live AI conversations. With that, sorry, I'm still reason Greg, who's laughing now, actually laughing out loud out of my mistake there. So let's pivot into the news. Andy, I have a few news stories. I'm sure you do as well, but let's start with Roomba. And then I haven't even had a chance to tell you this, Andy. So talk about a first look. I did some lovable work on a new website for us. And Andy, I have something you're really going to like on there. So I have not shown this to literally anybody, but I'm excited enough that I'm willing to share that as part of a segment today and show you where I am in the process of the build. Yeah. So with that in mind, Andy, what happened with Roomba?
Well, I just, among other things, I just noted that Roomba was listed in a Perplexity Discovery list of news items as, being in the throes of bankruptcy and actually possibly selling its assets and its intellectual property to a Chinese robotics company. But you can imagine, like, the advent of AI powered robotics kind of washes over the simple programming that was available in a robot that would walk around and try to understand what the layout of a 2D map was. So yeah, they've kind of fallen by the wayside, and that's as much as I know about it. I don't know if there's been any comment from the leadership of Roomba, but let me move on to another more important, right off the cuff news item that I think is pretty exciting. Over the weekend, Notebook LM became integrated in Gemini.google.com. So now, nice. In addition to uploading the file, you can, to provide context to Gemini in your conversation, you can select any number of notebooks that you have in Notebook LM. So you can say, use this specific notebook as context for this discussion now. So basically what it's done is it's taken the work that you do to create notebooks, which are these collections, massive collections really, of context information that you put into a knowledge system. You can now use those, refer to those. And then this works for me because, let's say I have a number of notebooks in Notebook LM, and one of them, for example, is about agents. Well, I've put a bunch of different articles that I've collected about agents in there. I might have done some work with an agent, and I captured, with a copy and paste of text, an exchange that was pretty remarkable to me with an agent as an example of a good agent performance. And now I put that all in a notebook, and I can ask questions in Notebook LM, but I can also now just use the drop down to select Notebook LM, pick that notebook, and now start a conversation right with Gemini, voice or on the desktop, with that as the context. That's a really great example of Google taking what's really working and
Yes.
putting it right in front of you now with Gemini. And that it's just started right now with gemini.google.com. So you have to be on the web interface to use it. But you can imagine that it's going to be in the Gemini app. It's going to be everywhere. So now you have your repository of information in Notebook LM, and you have Gemini to assist you in any way possible.
And think about the 1-2 punch of it, like a notebook plus Gemini, 1-2-3 punch, notebook plus regular Gemini plus gems. You now have the ability, when what you're saying basically is to say, here's this corpus of knowledge that I've gained, that I've gathered, right? So if it's scaled.com, right? Or Scaled, the company I work for, obviously we could get together a notebook of lots of different types of resources from HR to whatever, right? That's internally scaled with need. And then now we have our Google Workspace for the company, right? So I can go to Gemini and it's the upgraded. I have Pro because of the enterprise side of things, which is phenomenal. Use it all the time. And I can ask questions against that notebook and gain more knowledge from the web, plus the power of 3 Nano Banana in there. I can create slides and all that stuff. But then also you have the ability to now say, okay, thank you. Now that we've gathered all this stuff, I happen to have this specific gem that does this specific thing. Maybe it creates the PowerPoints or the slides. Maybe it creates, LinkedIn slide. I can't think what they call that, a carousel post or something like that, or 100 different other experiences that are use cases that you might be able to think about. This to me, Andy, I didn't see this in news. So I'm so glad you brought this up. This to me, once again, shows the power of when you sort of control an ecosystem. And man, Google, not only are they throw in, jabs here and landing with them, but now they're starting to take some of these tools and just integrate them with each other. And this is really, really cool. I can't wait to go actually literally go use this today.
Yeah, I know. I haven't looked this morning because it was minutes ago that I stumbled upon this, but I'd like to see in a gem, maybe you can just check one, if there is now present in the gem configuration, a selection of that as one of the items there. Because the news said that the announcement said you can use the Notebook LM integration with gems, but I don't know where that shows up in the gem configuration.
I don't know about that. I guess what I would say, you're right though. That would be the better, because now you're creating notebooks that are the knowledge for the gems.
Yes.
I wasn't thinking that way, but I'm just on my other screen here. Bear with me 1 second. If we as currently you cannot add a notebook. I mean, at least assuming I'm looking at the latest version here, I don't think you can use a notebook as a knowledge source. But you could do what I said initially, which is call to that notebook, use it, do your initial work, use a gem to translate, facilitate, or otherwise that data in a certain.
Yeah, but you're not wrong. They have referred to I mean, this is just rolling out, so it's not available all across the ecosystem yet. But they've said specifically, use the Notebook LM integration within gems. That's the phrasing in the newsletter item that I pulled for this.
Well, so I hope so.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to refresh. It may not have rolled out to me. You know how these things.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to come soon.
I can keep the. I wasn't going to do this one first, but I will keep the Google ball rolling here.
Oh, I got some Google too, but I know where you're going.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if I have the same one as you. It was pretty big, but you never know. Sometimes you might just have yet another big story here. Was it about Translate?
Yeah, that's one of them. But I have another little one. Yeah.
Okay, so this is my holdout for why I don't particularly want to put a whole lot of time learning language. Now I know that's really kind of silly, and you're like, Brian, learn another language. And my wife and I have talked, about possibly moving to Portugal in the next 10 years or so of many places. And if that was the case, I would 100% learn Portuguese because I mean, you have to learn the native language. However, this is my pinnacle of excitement when it comes to traveling is now Google is saying that they have live speech-to-speech translation capability rolling out in a beta experience on the Google Translate app. Essentially what you do is you have your phone in front of you and you have an earbud or 2 earbuds, or you have to have headphones. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You are able to speak in your native language. And then the other person they're getting the translate on the screen, and the other person is hearing what you said translated into their native language. And they have that a couple different examples on here. I'm just going to back up a little bit. Let's see if this is the one on the street here. I'm going to turn this up really quick. I understand if you're just listening to this isn't going to be too helpful, but basically you have, I believe, Sinhala, which I don't even know that language, but you're going to hear somebody, one speaking Sinhala, one person speaking it, the other person is speaking French. Let's just see if this pulls up on you.
Bonne soupe chaude. Oh, හොඳ උණුසුම් සුප් එකක්. එකස් නියම අදහසක්. හරිම සීතලයි. මට මේකට අකුරු නැහැ. ඒක අපේ ඇඟ උණුසුම් කරයි.
Sounds like an African language.
Oui, il n'y a pas que le froid, il y a un vent terrible.
Okay, so you can kind of hear it there. I mean, it's going to be tough if you're just listening to that, because it's going to sound like a whole lot of what's going on. But basically what they're doing is they're sort of fading the audio in and out of the people that are on the screen. So the first thing you were hearing was the French to Sinhala translation in the one guy's ear. They're standing on a street together. So this is live and interactive out there. And then as soon as he starts speaking, they switch over so you can hear the French side of it as well. But of course, it's also in English. So there's a lot going on with subtitles and things like that.
But the important point is that they can be standing next to each other and in real time, no pause. One speaks one language and the other person is right up to speed and can immediately respond in their language. And meanwhile, the person listening is getting it in real time in their language. It's like, that's really a great thing. Here's another use case for that. So you can watch TV shows or movies in another language. Just bring your earbuds, open the Translate app, and it's going to take whatever's on the screen and it's going to give you that dialogue. And more important than just the real-time aspect, Gemini's capabilities in real-time translation include subtle capabilities about retaining the nuances of the language itself and translating those effectively. So they used an example in some of the documentation there of, the phrase, he stole my thunder. Well, that doesn't, that's kind of an idiomatic thing in English. That what I was going to say was really thunderous or something.
Right.
And that this person overwrote my potential for being thunderous. Try translating all of that into another language where that idiom doesn't exist. Well, Gemini has that skill, apparently. So it figures out what the best approximation of that nuanced expression is and will provide that. So I'm eager to try Translate now using earbuds and just listen to a television show on YouTube in Portuguese or whatever else and just see what the experience is like.
100%. I opened up the app, but I figured, number one, I probably don't have the update yet. I wasn't sure. I said rolling out in beta. I was like, I got to check and see if I have like beta turned on. So there's probably a couple steps there, and I just didn't have enough time this morning to do it. But I'm right there with you, Andy. Like, this is the goal for me, is to be able to have the ability to move around in other parts of the world and have conversations. But of course, like you said, also for media and things like that. I'll put the old guy hat on and say like, hey, don't stop at, Sinhala and French. Go ahead and put Gen Z and Gen Alpha slang on there. And I'll just hold it up to my daughter and her friends. And then that way I can understand what it is that they're trying to tell me in their native language, in their native tongue. And then I will speak back and stuff I learned. And I'll say jam and rad and things like that I grew up with, and we'll be okay. We'll get along, Okay,
I have one other little Google item.
Do it.
This was interesting. Google's, really advanced in their science and technology of AI. They're really at the forefront of it in many ways. They have a new research framework out that teaches AI agents to monitor their own token and tool budgets in real time and adjust their behavior accordingly. And the early results in the lab basically show higher accuracy with up to 50% lower token costs. So that's a shift away from brute force scaling, to get to efficiency or effectiveness, I should say, and instead focusing on efficiency and control of the actual operating budgets that are being used by the AI. and we're moving forward to a point where these things won't skyrocket out of control in terms of costs.
Yeah, which is, I love the idea of using AI to make AI more efficient, and there's so many different ways that has happened. Also really interesting of just, this has been sort of like deep research at Scaled in the last week or so. I've been working with a coworker of mine, and we got really deep into costs and efficiencies for our client in terms of OpenAI models, but also Gemini and stuff. It was really interesting as him and I both were going back and forth, and he was writing me on Slack and uncovering things about how different models approach summarization, truncation, and things like that, and where they decide to put emphasis and time and where they don't. And there's more variance than I think people would actually believe. That we tend to like lump in and say, oh, well, Gemini Pro is now similar to 5.2, and those things are true, but there's also a lot of like nuance to those models, especially with Claude as well, on how they sort of choose to look at large corpuses of data. But to your point, I think we're quickly moving to we're there now in a future here where you have AI optimizing AI and doing it at scale, and it's super low latency. I have two R updates. The first one is Rivian, which we don't talk about a lot on this show. Rivian, if you don't know, they make like the R1. Now they're coming out with the R2. They actually have the R3. They have the really funky, Dyson shaped front headlights, which I think I watched a documentary about that, about how much of an internal fight that was at Rivian back in the day. Now it's sort of like, it's a distinguished look that is Rivian. You see the Amazon trucks rolling around. A lot of those are Rivian as well. So they came out and they had sort of their, dev day basically. And they announced a couple things, of which some of that has to do with AI. So for one, Rivian autonomy processor and Gen 3 autonomy computer. That's something they're starting to roll out, which I thought was impressive. More on the AI side though, what Rivian to me has been known for more than probably anything is their software. It would not surprise me, or I know Amazon has invested heavily into Rivian. It would not surprise me as a lot of that is the software actually that Rivian. And in fact, I always thought if Rivian doesn't make it as a software, as a car company, right, for lack of a better term, an automotive company, that they will probably be fine selling their proprietary rights to the software, because I think it's probably that good. There's been a lot of emphasis there. So one of the things they talked about is actually just having in-car AI conversations, and they do this through their software system, a la talking to a Siri or Alexa or whatever. But think about this future. It's no longer, hey, my check engine light is on. It's simply a question to the car. Hey, Rivian, why is my check engine light on? And that knowing that the power of general language AI and what they're building with their software and how it's all integrated together for it to say, hey, Brian, this is what's going on with the car. This sensor is going off. And, we're usually in the dark with this stuff. And I think the idea of being a car owner and being able to get valuable information in a natural language way in the car is actually very, very cool. And I don't think they're going to be the only ones doing it, but certainly it's very cool to hear what they're building. And then the other thing I was going to mention, Andy, which is sort of on the AI side of things. I'm curious what you think here. Okay, I'd buy a Rivian tomorrow, by the way. I can't afford one, but I'd buy one. I have other EVs and I love them. They are adding LiDAR to their models to go out in like late 2026. That doesn't mean they're adding it to their current models. Like literally you're either buying it and it has LiDAR or not. Now, I don't know if that comes with a price differential or whatever. I think though, for me, let's say I was shopping, I was thinking about a Rivian today and I was like, I might buy one. I would not. I would purposely wait the full year for the models to come out with LiDAR, just because personally, I think it's like, why wouldn't I want to have it? And there were some Mark Rober videos about Tesla and not having LiDAR and not really understanding fog and rain and walls. And LiDAR sort of solves for that. Not to say the Teslas are dangerous or anything like that. It's just a different technology. And I find it very interesting that Rivian, this sort of far into like production of vehicles, is saying, hey, we're going to add LiDAR to our vehicles and going forward with these models late 2026. I don't know. What is your take on that? Because I kind of find that to be a very big announcement.
Well, it portends their intent to arrive at autonomous driving, right? So LiDAR is an important technology, as you point out, to handle low visibility situations in a way that the full camera systems on a Tesla, would struggle with, like really, really dense fog, which is, by the way, there's some serious accidents over the weekend because of dense fog in the central valleys of California. And that's one of the worst highway accidents you can have. LiDAR would give you very long range advanced warning of stopped vehicles ahead of you in low visibility situations. So that's one of the safety additions, and it could be used just simply for that alone in the Rivian. And LiDAR sensors, and actually they're active, they're pinging sensors, right? They're sending out a signal and retrieving the signal in a way that a camera is simply a passive receptor. So LiDAR is relatively inexpensive, and you can get a small package at the automotive level that wouldn't significantly increase the cost of the car. At least that's my understanding of it. So yeah, I think it's the right thing, and it's all part and parcel of adding new capabilities to the sensor arrays of a car. And this, just to harken back to your point about the Rivian software and the ability to speak to your car about maintenance problems.
Sure.
Do EVs actually have a check engine light? I don't think so.
Yeah, they did. Funny enough, they do. Well,
maybe it doesn't say check engine. Yeah.
Geez, now you got me thinking. One of my cars is a gas, because we went back to a gas. So I have a Santa Fe, and it forever doesn't like my my gas cap, and so the check engine light is perpetually on. But now you got me thinking: does my Bolt have what is the version of the check engine or error light? Honestly, I think, honestly, Andy, now you got me thinking about it. It is just sort of the menu, because I can tell you right now that my tire pressure sensors have failed in my tires, and they need to be replaced. But it's like prohibitively expensive just to have somebody pull tires off just to put them back, know. And we all got around for decades without tire pressure.
I bought a battery powered air pump, and I just carried it in my car, and now I don't even have to fix holes in my tires. I just pump them up routinely. So
they're good to go, right?
I'm old school though. I grew up that way.
I understand. Last thing I'll say about Rivian, then we can hit. I have maybe 2 or 3 other news stories. I know you have a few as well. Just because you mentioned about autonomy, here's a big difference between them and Tesla. Now, I do not own a Tesla. Don't come after me, Tesla owners. I just know that their autonomy packages are expensive. But this is what Rivian announced. This was the other day. Its subscription package, Autonomy Plus, with continuously expanding capabilities, launching in early 26 and priced at $2,500 one time or $49 a month. I don't know what the Tesla is, but I know that is a lot cheaper than what they have. I think Tesla's really in the 20K range. I might be wrong about that. But wow, if you're putting something at 2,500, you're at a level where if you're at the dealership or you're buying and building a Rivian online, that's like a line item. I mean, what is it going to, you're going to make payments most likely, right? And unless you're buying it outright, that 2,500 is going to get split over 60 months.
But let's also remember that we're rapidly approaching a time when you probably ought not to have your own vehicle, that you'll find it far more economic to just instead call an Uber, in effect, which is an autonomous Uber. And when you need to drive somewhere, it comes and you get taken to the place that you want to go. And there's no capital investment that you have to make. Cars now, it's getting ridiculous. Baseline luxury SUV is in the $70,000 range, and people are buying $150,000 cars. You can't get. I think the average car price is $55,000 now, and I have, just to show my old schoolness, I've never purchased a new vehicle for more than $35,000.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would buy another vehicle. I'm down to the point where I'm, doing maybe 2,000 or 3,000 miles a year on my vehicle.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It'll be interesting to see where they goes. I mean, I've said
that's
it before.
possibly thanks to Amazon. Like I don't even go shopping anymore, right?
Yeah, no, true. I always say this. It'll be interesting to see what my daughter's driving experience is like throughout her years, decades. I'm saying, because she's 15 right now and she's been driving. Her first vehicle will be our EV that we bought. We bought it knowing that it would be her first vehicle.
Yeah.
And I was saying to somebody the other day, I would love it if my daughter never had a pump gas. Not because she didn't rent a car or whatever, you know what I mean? But I just mean for like her own vehicle, that she was able to go from being 16 with a, 20, it's a used vehicle. We bought it used. So it'll be several years old by the time she has it, almost 10 years old by the time she has it, but it has plenty of range on it. It's a great little vehicle. I would love it if that from there on, she's always able to just buy the EV that makes sense for her. And,
I think if I'm not mistaken, the Bolt is no longer manufactured.
They took like a weird year off. Yeah, ours is a 2017 and it's great. I mean, it's the downside of it is they're very cheap. I mean, I think even when we sell it to my daughter, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think you could probably buy our Bolt for about 7,000 now, something like that, right? Yeah. But the only thing, the downside is like, there's trade-offs, right? You're not charging fast anywhere, so you're going to sit, you go stretch your legs. You're going to need some time to get that car back up to where it needs to be to 80% and stuff, and that's different than a lot of these Rivians.
Well, that was an interesting sidebar conversation.
I know.
Not directly about AI, but I think it's relevant because it's a huge transition in the overall economy. Like, automotive purchases have been a foundation of the U.S. and global economy. And frankly, there are just too many vehicles out there, and they haven't lasted particularly well. There's a complete replacement. That's happening right now, just as in the case of AI, replacing things. And I want to talk, if I may, weave into some news from McKinsey. And this is about the white collar recession that is happening in another major dislocation of the way things were. So McKinsey has dropped 5,000 of their 45,000 staff at the end of 2023. So between the end of 2023 and now, they've dropped 5,000 staff, and they're now going to be cutting approximately 10% of their remaining headcount, primarily from operational areas, over the course of the next 18 months. And this is a move that is really signaling that white collar professionals are, at risk in the advent of artificial intelligence. So one of the other points of information about McKinsey is that they've deployed approximately 12,000 AI agents in the period since the end of 2023, as they reduce staff by 5,000. And in November, just this past month, they cut 200 technology roles. And it's automating support functions. And so probably those came out of IT and technology support roles. And it said, we're going to have eventually fewer people in non-client deployed areas, but they'll be leveraged by AI. So they're doing the downsizing of humans, but the humans that remain will be supported by AI, and that's how they'll maintain and potentially increase their productivity. So this is a pattern that's also occurring at Deloitte, at KPMG, at PwC, at EY, and Bain & Company. They've all announced layoffs since 2023. So there's this enormous disruption that's happening. And I'm going to call it the AI displacement. And it comes from two sides. One of them is, okay, you can become more efficient as an enterprise by reducing your staff and augmenting them with AI. But in these professional services companies, it's being driven by the demand side as well. As many enterprise scale customers who would have paid for a McKinsey study now say, well, let's use an AI advisory instead, see if we can get AI to provide us with the same kinds of proposals and presentations that used to come from Accenture and McKinsey. And if you remember back, sometime in the last while that we've been doing this show, there were some news items about blowback to one of these major professional services firms because it was discovered by the client that they had used AI to produce the presentation.
Yep.
They paid $95,000 for it. I think it was I forget which one. I'm not going to name one of them and sully them that way. But one of them had to pay back the customer because they hadn't invested the same level of human talent in it.
Yep.
And the customer said, look, if you're going to do that, I'm going to do that. I'm going to use AI to do my own presentation.
Yeah.
That's the reduction of the demand side that's driving this downsizing of white collar workforce at the professional services level.
Listen, I see it out with companies I consult for, and it's a real concern. And you're talking about the McKinsey report and other news stories. I saw one where they had put Artemis. It's like a famous AI agent that put Artemis, and it was essentially working over a 10-hour period. It was on like cybersecurity and penetration attacks and stuff like that, I think, on the back end of sites. Anyway, it had worked at the equivalent of $18 an hour and had an 82% success rate compared to humans doing the same work. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out the 82% is just today. It'll be 92 and 99 and 99.9 in time. And $18 is just today. That will be 12 and 7 and 5 and $2 an hour. So efficiency and ability of AI is only going up, price is only going down. And this is where we are today at $18. This is just a point in time.
Yeah.
That's just one area. Obviously, sales is seeing a huge, awakening as far as AI goes. It hasn't hit some areas as much as others, but it's certainly there. And, you're right. It gets back to what I would consider like the locksmith, idea, which is I always say, I locked myself out of my car years ago, and a locksmith came out and, pre-charged me $75 for the trip, which is totally understandable. Was not at my car more than 3 minutes, and probably 2.5 of that was just chit chat. 30 seconds of it was him unlocking my car and sending me on my way for $75. Now, he did make the trip out and back and whatever. I was happy to be in my car. Best $75 I ever spent, right? And all that. So it all works. But then you go like 30 seconds of work for $75, or however you want to work that out in your head. And so I think AI, I see it in my role too. It's like, well, where's the value? Is the value that I know how to manipulate these AI systems to get the result that my client wants in a fast period of time? And that's what they're paying for. But there's always this concern of sometimes doing things too quickly because it can have the adverse experience for the client who values how much time it is. And that's not to say I sit on projects, but there are days where I jump onto something and in the back of my head, I go, I could probably with another 3 hours deliver this solution to them tomorrow.
Yeah.
But then you have to think to yourself, how is that going to look?
Yeah. Right.
So
right.
Are they paying because I just know how to do it? I have expertise, or are they paying because it should take 3 or 4 days and that makes them feel better about what they paid? And I think everybody, I'm being honest, I think everybody deals with that, it's just that where is the value that the thing got done the way you wanted to, or the time it took and the human sacrifice and effort that it, took to get there or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. How many more I got
I have a couple more, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at the time, and I want to make sure I share stuff about Lovable as well.
Good. Okay, I'll knock these out quickly. The first one is that OpenAI disclosed this past week that Codex now builds the vast majority of itself, and they show this as a milestone in the company's development of self-improving artificial intelligence. And here's a quote from Alexander Mbirikos, the product lead for Codex at OpenAI. I think the vast majority of Codex is built by Codex, so it's almost entirely just being used to improve itself. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a slightly different interpretation of what was said. Like, is it that Codex is improving itself, or is it that Codex is being occupied almost for the majority of its time in use, Like the tokens that are being used by Codex are being used to improve Codex now. There's a couple of different things there, but that's a very interesting interpretation from his quote. It's almost entirely being used just to improve itself.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Hello,
Well, that's Prometheus coming at us.
Yeah,
Right
hello.
yeah. Okay. Well, the next one is Chai Discovery. Okay. So this is AI in science. Startup Chai Discovery. It's clever, right? Chai is a drink, and also CHAI. Okay, very, very clever.
There you go.
Okay, Chai Discovery is a startup that raised a 130 million Series B that OpenAI is a major participant in, okay, at a 1.3 billion valuation. It's an antibody generation model that has demonstrated profound experimental success in coming up with new molecules, approaching 20% success rate when previously computational approaches in designing new antibodies was below 1/10 of 1%. Okay, so now 20% of their experimental creations are actual working antibodies that can work against diseases. Okay, so this is about drug discovery and compounds that can be used to basically imitate antibodies. I guess Chai is a computer-aided design suite for molecules, compressing development cycles from years to weeks. So here, the person who founded that is from previously worked at OpenAI, at Meta, and served as the chief AI officer at AABSCI, whatever that is. And there was a former engineering and product leader at Stripe who was his co-founder. So 1.3 billion valuation, just a very small team, but making big waves in the creation of new drugs.
I think it's so cool. We're so close, Andy. I mean, you just can't watch these news stories come out as fast as they do and not believe that there are some major breakthroughs. I don't know where, I don't know what disease, I don't know what they'll solve. But I just think we're less than a year away from some major news discovery that says we have figured this out, and AI was a huge part.
Yeah, we've often said, look, AI is going to help us, solve world problems and solve disease. Well, here's a specific example of real products coming out as a result. Well, not yet productized, but very early in the pipeline, but real discovery that is advancing the science of disease treatment and or disease prevention, right on the ground right now.
Yeah. Do you have another one? You want me to hit mine real quick?
I'm done.
Okay. I'll try to run through mine really quick. One was, I just think this is a bigger conversation. So maybe I'll hit it really quick because it came out of the news on Friday, but it's a bigger conversation. And that's President Trump's AI order faces political and legal hurdles. Now, okay, what does that mean? Well, you might know that President Trump, at least in the States here, has sort of seeking to bar state laws on artificial intelligence that he says slows innovation will face political and legal opposition. So basically the gist of it here is he is making it easier for less oversight for some of these big AI companies in development. And there's people who obviously have issues with that. But I think this is a sort of a, damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation. You have the leadership, better or worse, that's saying, hey, we need to move fast. We need to be able to iterate. We need to be able to keep up with China, which is a lot with the sort of the subtext here. And then, the other side of that is not wrong to say but that also means that you're moving so fast that you're not putting the regulations in place. And I don't really necessarily have a place I come down on this. I maybe tend to lean towards we need to keep moving on innovation, but there's trade-offs. And that's exactly what this is sort of about. So it's not, I don't mean this to be any sort of political story. We try to stay out of that on the show here, just that this is something that's going on. And really, this is something I imagine every country is really wrestling with is, do you move fast with AI innovation? Why would you do that? To stay competitive with other powers in the world and such? And what are the trade-offs if you do move fast and have less regulation? And do we really trust the OpenAIs, the Googles, the Metas, you name it, companies, Anthropics, to do the right thing through security and compliance on their own if there's not federal oversight, poking through the files. So that's one. Any thoughts real quick on that one, Andy?
Just point people to an article in I saw it in an email newsletter from Gary Marcus that talks about this executive order. And it starts out with him saying, here's this guy, Donald Trump, who probably doesn't even know how to use a laptop, who has profound misunderstandings about what AI is really. And he's making decisions about whether or not we should, have guardrails up about AI. So,
yeah.
What?
Yeah. I heard, I agree. I'm not a personal fan of President Trump, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's a hard place between a rock and a hard place because, like, how do you, there's a conundrum, right? There's pluses and minuses to both sides of that. And it's very hard when there's this sort of it's not secret, right? We can see what China is building. We often get the models and the things, and we know that there's a lot of innovation and moving fast there. And I'm sure that worries a lot of people too. So that was one of the stories I wanted to bring up. The other one I'll just say really quickly, and I think I'll leave it there. Just let's see, there's that one. Yeah. Last one here, because we talked about the rest, is just Runway. Runway introduced two really important things. I mean, we know they've been a leader in creating AI video. They've just introduced Gen 4.5. There's a little hype video here. I was going to show it, but just go look on YouTube or on Runway ML, and you can see the 4.5 video they put together. I mean, we're just at a point now. We know this, Andy, but for everybody else, the videos are just phenomenal. Either they're hyper realistic, or even if they're not, they're just super creative and vibrant, and whatever the case may be. The other thing that's valuable outside of 4.5 is that they are working on, or they're releasing, basically a world model. And so this goes right in line with what Dr. Fei-Fei Li is working on, right? And many others who are also working on this idea of this world model. I think Rivian has also said in that news story, they were talking about world models, and it just reinforces the LiDAR and everything else, which is, we probably cannot get as far as we need to get. We probably do have a ceiling when it comes to the language models as they are. And what we need is that's not going away in our language models and transformers, but we need AI that fundamentally understands the world and how it works in real space, in 3D, the way we move through it and stuff. And there's a lot of people like Dr. Fei-Fei Li, as well as companies like Runway, which has got lots of investment behind it, actively working on this. And you can see the results of it, because honestly, you're going to have we've seen versions of this with the gaming and stuff where the worlds are being created instantaneously, and it has all understanding of physics and things like that. Obviously, we've talked about it with NVIDIA and what they do with digital twins. God, we talked about it here, there, and otherwise. Just goes to show you have yet another major company in this area saying, this is where we're putting our money. This is where we're putting our focus. It's about the world models. And I would expect, Andy, we will talk about world models and world model building and AI and world models no less than 24 times in 2026 on this show.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's just such a big topic, and it's only becoming bigger. Okay, I want to just take the last couple minutes here to share with everybody. I sort of teased this at the top of the show. We got lots of people in the chat, so it's a good time to do it. Hey, everybody to the chat that I haven't had a chance to say hi to, because a lot more of you all popped in. Hello, thank you. I'm glad you guys are all having a good old conversation over there in the chat. But I want to share with Andy and everybody, because I literally haven't shown anybody this at all, not even my family. I finally sat down over the weekend. We didn't have a Georgia game, so I didn't have to host that. And other than some of the stuff I had going on, it was a bit slower of a weekend. I thought, okay, I've got to start working towards using my lovable credits to solve our Daily AI Show website problem. We stood up just the background on this is we stood up our website because we had to have one, and we did something super fast, and man, is it embarrassing. If you go to the dailyishow.com, it's just an embarrassing site by 2015 standards, never mind late 2026. And so I knew there had to be a solution that I had to get to a solution. One of us did, and I was just like, well, you know what? I have these lovable credits, and I want to put them to good use. So what I did, Andy, is I worked, and you do this as well. I stayed off of Lovable as much as possible and used Gemini 3 Pro as much as possible. From everything from ideation to PRDs to this isn't working. Why isn't it working? Tell me what I should say to Lovable. Point to that was to really stop the bleed of using too many Lovable credits. And also I wanted to make sure I was writing prompts to Lovable that were designed for Lovable. So I had Gemini go look for that first. Hey, I always do this? Like, hey, how does this website want to be talked to? How does this model want to be talked to? Great. Okay. I understand that concept. Let's go talk to it that way. So I'm getting the most efficiency out of it. So anyway, with that said, I'll bring it up on screen here and show you where I am on the website and, what I continue to be working on. But this is how far I got. I did not have any of this as of 1 p.m. on Saturday. So anything you see, and I was out yesterday too. So I would say all in, Andy, this is definitely less than 10 hours and maybe less than like 6 or 7 at this point. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of share where we are. Okay, so this is where I am. Don't know if we'll keep, the colors where they are and stuff like that. May not be orange. Haven't really gotten into like the colors because that's so easy to change. But basically, we have our home screen here, the Daily AI Show. And then we have a nice little watch this episode. This is the one that was from Friday. I only have 2 episodes in right here because I've just been testing. So there's not a huge treasure trove, nor is this live. So you can't go play with this yourself at this point. But you basically have, whatever the header is and whatever the first video is. And if we click on that, it's going to open up here. And, if I played it, it would be all of us talking on Friday. You get your overview, which is the same stuff you would find if you looked on YouTube or Spotify. And then you also get your full transcript, which is right here on there as well. If you go on the watch YouTube, that link for whatever reason doesn't work. But if we go back to the home screen, you can see here and then more AI goodness, catch up on recent episodes. This is where all the other episodes will be. And then right now we just have the weekly AI brief. If we click on here, it's going to take us to subscribe to the newsletter that goes out every Sunday. And this one's obviously going to take you to the dailyashowcommunity.com, which is where you can subscribe and join our Slack community. So that's okay. We have that. And then if you go to the episodes page here, you're going to see all the episodes. I think that's all pretty straightforward. The about page doesn't have anything on it, but it will eventually have pictures of me and Andy and the rest of the crew with little explanations on it. So that's pretty obvious. Okay. I ran through all of that because what I really want to show you is this. And this is what I worked on the whole time. So I tried this and it works. So I'm going to try it here. I have to stay within those 2 shows, Thursday and Friday show. It's all that's in here. But what happened with Disney and OpenAI? Come on. Okay. See, Andy, number 1, it went and did a light perplexity search and brought us back just a summary of what's going on with that topic based on what I wrote in. But even better than that, Disney's equity investment, OpenAI and Disney partnership deal, Disney and OpenAI partnership. And if we go here, it says watch clip. And I click on this. Well, I guess I got to click on this one. Oh, it's blind. It works. If I grab this link, I'm going to grab this link really quick so I can show you guys. Copy. Where do I copy? Oh, come on. Give me 1 second. For some reason, there's something broken with the link itself. But if I type the exact same link into YouTube, it works. So this is the link. It literally said use it. So it basically came back and said, hey, during this clip, you guys talked about Disney and OpenAI, which was the query I put in the search.
Great Marvel, great Disney and Sora, and
there
you go. So I thought that was a pretty cool announcement.
So there is one clip of Karl in that particular case talking about Disney. So what I've done is I've created a intelligent vector-based search that is not only pulling back, the basic thing here is it's just using sonar to do light overview of like what happened with Disney and OpenAI. Well, okay, well here, first of all, this is the Perplexity news side with cited sources, right? Here are your sources on what actually happened. But what did we talk about on the show? Now, obviously this is just from the last 2 days of shows, but the point here is that as Andy and I have been talking and planning on doing forever, show me all the clips where the Daily AI Show crew talks about this topic going back 616 episodes.
Okay, wow. But let me ask you, how did it generate the clips? The clips didn't pre-exist. The application only has the full episode.
No. So this is a bit of Project Bruno, right? So if I go into, I'm on the admin side now, okay, the admin dashboard here.
Yeah.
And then if we go into one of these episodes, right now I'm uploading them manually. What will happen in the future is it will automatically, I'll use like Apify. And when we upload the show to YouTube, it will automatically kick this off on its own. So I don't have to do a secondary process. But as you do, you do it manually first to get it down. And then you say, okay, go grab it and do it yourself, right? So if I go in here, I can either add a new episode here. And if I go into episode 615, this is Friday's episode. And if we go in here and look in the back end, what you're going to see is that I have built this video architect. It's a V5 because we've gone through quite a bit. And it's a multi-stage process. The architect looks and uses Gemini. I usually use 3.3 Pro preview. And it looks at the entire transcript at one time, Andy, and it comes up with what it suggested. In fact, you can't see it here, but if I ran this, it actually pulls up a back-end log that shows me the full prompt output. So I can validate it myself or throw it into Gemini and say, does this pass muster, right? And then there's a second step. Once I'm okay with that 2-step process, then the surgeon comes in at a lighter model, 4.0 or 2.5 Pro, and it looks at every one of those clips and associates every one of the timestamps. And then what it does is, in this particular case, it found 32 clips from our 60-minute show on Friday, and it created every single one of these with little summaries. It takes all of that and it immediately sends it over. When I do this and I say commit, it writes all of that information to Superbase, which is what the search bar, when we get all the way back here, this is looking and saying, okay, what does Perplexity have to say about this topic? But also, what does Superbase say is relevant based on these terms?
Okay, got it. So there's actually a workflow that's built into this application.
Yes.
That is not yet automated, but it is generating the clips.
Yes, it is. So, it generated everything itself.
Superbase has clips in it when you go to make a search.
It does. In fact, what's happening is in Superbase, I'm not sure that we would really have much to show on this because I can't really click into this, but essentially it has this information. You can see the timestamp from 0 to 51 seconds or 51 to 3:47. What's happening in Superbase is it translates 3 minutes and 47 seconds into straight seconds. Because when you go look at YouTube, YouTube has a addendum to the end of its URL that says time equals 60 times 3 is 180 plus 47 is 227. It says equals 227s for seconds. And that is the knowledge that tells it, hey, take the URL from this show, append the seconds, which is exactly what you get for a clip.
To the clip.
Exactly right.
Yeah, but that all came from the transcript. The timing came from the transcript originally.
It came from the VTT file. I should be clear about that.
Okay.
It came from this. So for us on the backside, we have the VTT file, which has your clipping on here. But it's tricky, right? Because, and you can see here where I initially had manual clips where I was doing things a little differently. So these are all the different clips, right? And it kind of gives you a little title and stuff. So what's happening is it is looking at this transcript. It's looking at this transcript and these clips. But obviously this is not okay. You can't give this to Superbase and expect to have a quality search experience. What you do is you use these as sort of markers, and then you're looking at words across a whole area. But don't forget, the AI has to be smart enough. Gemini has to be smart enough to look for conceptual meaning. Gemini was brought up or Disney was brought up. Well, in what way was it brought up? And Now I have to go say, this is the clip. And that second part of the process, the reason it's a two-step for now. Eventually, if it's so good, I would just remove the barrier, right? I would take the human out of the loop. But for now, I need to be able to see the back end of it and the outputs of the prompts. So for now, what it's doing is going and saying, okay, you told me these are the clips. Now I'm going to go figure out exactly what the start and stop is for each timestamp. And we don't try to do that at the same time because they're both powerful resource and you don't want to mix those together.
Yeah. So there's a schema in Supabase for clips.
Correct.
Okay. And, or I should say the schema has a table for clips.
It does, as one of many tables. Yes.
Now, just to get a little geeky on you, does the clips table have a value for the timestamps for its own, for that clip, or do you have another table in your schema for the timestamps that reference the clips? Because the clips is primarily the semantic information that you want to. Anyway, that's
I don't know, honestly. I have to go back and look. I've certainly
look in Supabase and just look at the table structure and see if there's a timestamp table in addition to the clips table. If those are the naming conventions that were used by Gemini in building that schema. Wow. Good work, Brian. I'm impressed.
I was excited to see it work. I was most excited to show it to you, Andy. I mean, I love obviously all our other co-hosts, but you and I have talked the most about like this kind of work and what this means. And it's always been our goal to
make all the content that we've built over 618 shows or whatever, to make that interrogable. So people could actually say, on this subject, give me a time sequence of, what commentary occurred in 2023, in 2024, in 2025, in 2026 on this topic. Show the progression of that. I mean, that's a more complex query than just give me any information that exists about this subject. But that kind of sort of longitudinal inquiry about the progress of a daily AI show's observations about the progress of AI is a timeline of history in AI that will now be elevated by new features that you'll add to the very sophisticated website that you're creating for us. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I'm so excited to see this functional in a certain sense. Here's the thing. I'll be honest with you, because the search is not free, right? It has a cost associated to it. So I can't actually literally open it up unless you and I had very deep pockets. I can't open it up to the world because right now in its use case, if you just hit the search, you could just use it as a free perplexity. It would just keep hitting. You would be like, tell me about this, tell me about that. So not a whole lot of guardrails that has to be sort of figured out about how many times you can hit it, and mass attack it, things that all have to be figured out. But what I do see is that once it's at its level, Andy, it becomes a paid feature. And I mean that because we have people who obviously follow our show, and I might be wrong about this, and I don't know what the dollar amount might be, but there has to be a trade-off that covers our costs, essentially, because I'm pinging Sonar every single time. And the costs associated with, just my associated costs with Gemini yesterday, with all the back and forth and running it through those models. Now I might be able to find more efficient models. I haven't gotten there yet. It was like $4.50 just yesterday. That's a lot of API costs. And so just the cost of ingesting this data and the time associated with it, we would have to have some sort of offset. So, hey, maybe once we get this and it's really good, in the meantime, we might just make this available to us internally, and it'll be behind lock and key for our team as a resource. And then as it gets better or grows, and it's whatever, I like the idea of people being able to pay a small monthly fee to offset those costs for the ability to say, hey, I listen to the Daily AI Show all the time, and it's a value to me to have basically this super notebook LM that allows me to go back and ask questions and get clips instantaneously to all of it. And of course, what it also did is it created clips.
There's a way to monetize this by creating a platform that's really useful to us for a large corpus of YouTube videos, and selling that to other creators who have similarly large corpus. Yeah, and that will that will subsidize our community's use of this for free.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that was always my goal. I always wanted to do this for us. And then what I wanted to do is turn this around and make this hierarchical structure and how you go about looking at the data and going to other YouTube creators and saying, look, step one, go look at our site. It's there, you know, so it works, right? Go stress test it. Step two, we can do this for you, and this is what it would look like to do that. This is what we would need from you, whatever. And a lot of this can be automated out. I have actually in the past with Project Bruno, you've seen it. Our listeners have not, and watchers have not seen it. Automated process of this inside of N8N. And so I will work towards to get me out of the system. But even if I had to do 615 times, if I had to go in and do this every single time, it would be worth it.
Yeah.
Even manually,
And let me just go back to say that the sort of strategic architecture of what you accomplished kind of comes from the work that we do. And that, so it has a legacy of information learned over the course of several years, but the actual production of that into a working application took less than 10 hours.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, of course, it would take another 200 hours to get it to the point where it was completely bulletproof and production ready. But the working prototype was vibe coded in under a day.
Yes, 100%. And that was with we can't go down that street. We got to throw it in a reverse, as you've done many times, and say, like, go back to the last known intersection and take a left instead of a right. And that's going to happen. And it's also, I told my wife this because I walked away. She's like, oh, I see you. I took a drive to Whole Foods. I sound silly, but I do that on Sunday mornings because there's some really pretty roads that take me from my house to a Whole Foods. And so I just like it. If I get out early enough, it's a beautiful drive and I like doing it. And so anyway, she said, oh, I saw you went to Whole Foods. I said, yeah, because I was sitting at the computer and Lovable was, whispering sweet nothings in my ear and showing me just how close we were going to be. And I had to back away and say, Andy, it's like painting a house. I can cover all the walls in the first 3 hours. I will spend the next week trimming. Yeah. And so it's deceiving. If you're not careful, you have to step away from it and go, this is weeks of work. But because they show you something so quickly, it makes you think like, I think I might just knock this out today. And you're like, no, nobody's going to see this. Nobody's going to see the light of day. The last thing I'll say about it, because we're over time, is that what we've talked about, Andy, and just to add on to what you're talking about productizing it, is the same thing that was built also means that you can now build as many new shorts and TikToks as you want, Instagrams, right? Because you have all the clips. It also means you could build super shorts or 1 hour videos from us on YouTube that were curated by AI that are all about one topic. So if you wanted to do a deep dive on our 2.5 years of what we talked about with all the GPT models, well, then you would do this. Then you would have another layer that says, okay, you have all of them in Superbase. Now bring them all together, come up with the best organizational playlist of clip to clip to clip, and put that together and make it a brand new YouTube video that's maybe 1 hour long. And instead of us being live on a show, it's everything we've talked about since we started the show about GPT. So there's a lot of potential here.
Yeah. And there's potential now for us to create adjacent shows. I mean, episodes, I should say, not shows, but an adjacent episode that's completely AI generated out of real shows that have preceded. So we can do a 30-minute show that's on a single topic that gives you not only the history of the progression, but also the latest information that the models that you're building and the application that you're building would retrieve from Perplexity, and maybe using Nano Banana generate new infographics. And wow, it's really exciting.
Yeah. Once you get past the segmentation and the how to batch, once you get past that, and to be fair, I've been working on the Bruno thing, this, for a long time. Yeah. So it's not like this is my first rodeo when it comes to that type of stuff. But damn it, Gemini 3 is so powerful. And it's really just, once again, rewritten how you write prompts, simplicity and all the things. So it really was sort of a starting over, but I did have a good roadmap of what it was that I wanted to know from all the shows from past successes and failures of trying to do this with older models. So once you break that, it really opens you up to say, oh, well, then you can ask yourself questions like, to your point, oh, could we create whole new AI generated, AI hosted videos of all other topics? Well, the answer is yes, because I have the clips. I can put the clips together, super clip it together, then to go get AI, Gareth, or somebody could go create a whole net new video that's not even us anymore, but it was built off the back of our language, our knowledge.
And now add the ability to do an audio overview of that generated episode.
Yes. Yep.
Right. So at the top end of the show, you've got a dialogue going back and forth between two things for our Spotify and new YouTube post that basically gives you an executive summary of what's going to be covered in that lesson or that episode.
Yeah. Okay. Gareth was like, I literally said what Gareth did, and Gareth's like, LOL, same idea. Yeah, Gareth, I knew your brain was going to be there. All you guys listening in the comments. By the way, thank you for all the love in the comments. We have a lot of people saying that's huge. I love it, Brian. Great work. I'd love to hear more about this. Guys, I'm so early in it, but look, I'm sharing it with you today. I built it over the weekend, and I'm sharing you today. So this is what brings me joy. Andy and I love this kind of stuff. We're building, we're figuring it out. And I'm gonna show you along and take you along for the process. And one day soon here, I don't know about the search, but one day soon here, what I just showed you will be the new Daily AI Show website, and we'll keep working on the search functionality to figure out how that gets brought to the community or some beta testers probably early on.
You can launch the landing page of the new website right away.
Yeah, exactly.
But the link to the search capability is going to be coming soon.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll gate that because it costs us money. And somebody will cost us a lot of money by using that site. So it's not protected in that way. Anyway, much more to come there. We're way over, but I wanted to share this today. I thought about it. I thought, no, I want to share it. So thanks, Andy, and thanks to everybody in the comments for being cool about it. Much more to come here, and I'll share along the way. All right, listen, we're back the rest of the week. Come back and hang out with us. We appreciate all today. This was a lot of fun, Andy. And I don't know, you and I, an hour and 7, it was just the two of us. I don't know, Andy, we're sunk.
What happened to that 30-minute show we were planning on? I don't know.
I don't even say it anymore because I know better. All right, guys. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on Tuesday. Bye.